Yeah.
Commission meeting agenda Wednesday, July 31st, 2024. First up is public comment. I don't see anybody. Davis, you see anybody?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to go on to elected officials and department head update. Kim, do you have anything?
I do not. I'm just here.
Okay. Doug, do you have anything?
Briefly, two things. The paving projects resumed. They're doing the storm drains as we speak, and that's going well. And we are trying to plan the next officer graduation, and I would propose October 23rd. You guys are at Maplewood that date, or no, you're at 12 Court Street. And if you'd want to switch over to switch that and be over here, we normally have planned it for about a 10:30 start time. I'm putting it out tentatively, and if that might work for commissioners and Chris, I could put out an email, but we try to pick a date ahead of time so the officers that are finishing up their training materials can have a deadline, and we can get as many of the current group that's in training, get them certified by a fall date every year. Any concerns about that date? I know Jack isn't here today, but
What's the date again?
October 23rd.
It's so far out, I won't think it'd be an issue.
It won't be. I have to make another change to the schedule later in the fall too. So I will double check when I'm back in my office, but that should be fine.
When is the conference in November?
It's November 10th, I believe, on Veterans Day.
Okay.
I attend.
So we'll still have a commissioners meeting probably that week.
Okay.
But yeah, Doug, I'll email you afterwards just to confirm, but that should be totally fine.
Okay. That's it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay. Cheryl, you have anything?
No, just here to support. And I mean, I think you mentioned you're gonna bring up what I had mentioned, another amendment to the budget, but that'll probably come up under your review.
No, you can bring it up now.
So you've all been presented with the recommendations of budget amendments for pro-share funds.
Yes.
This isn't a pro-share amendment. It is, and I'm gonna have to bring it up so that they have it specifically. There was a bill that was pretty significant to repair the mobile command unit. And the mobile command unit, we had money set aside in a reserve to be able to take care of this. It's just that Eli didn't present it in the original budget to transfer in from capital reserve to offset this expense. So essentially it's a transfer in from capital reserve and then an expense to cover the cost of the repairs that was done to the mobile command unit, some upgrades. So
We talked about that a few months ago, wasn't it?
oh, well, maybe you did, but and maybe you did talk about it. That will also be on the list of budget amendments, just
It's not
so
another repair.
We
from
talked
the
about
one
that.
we talked about.
it's,
Also talked specifically about the parking of it here. Remember that was a topic of conversation a couple months ago.
Yeah.
yeah, so he probably did bring it up because he had to move forward with it. I just want you to be aware that when you see the final presentation of what the delegation or executive committee will be voting on, it will also include no impact to taxes, but so.
Right. The bottom line is that the sheriff had brought it forward. You guys had discussed it, but we have to show it because there's going to be a transfer, is what Cheryl's. I think was what you're saying, Cheryl. Correct?
Yeah, because it's just, I know you've been bringing forward the budget amendment recommendations to the commissioners for vote so that they are supporting them, and I just want to make sure that that's kind of a formalized support.
Yeah.
As well.
Okay. Anybody else there that I'm not seeing besides Steve?
Nope, all set.
Okay. Because I really can't see. So I will move on to agenda items that we do have a schedule item, and that is Steve Perrin's report. So Steve, do you want to give your report?
Sure, thank you very much. So, good morning, everybody. It's a short and sweet report, but before I get to the formal report, every year we are required by the state of New Hampshire to have our joint loss management policy signed by the commissioners. And we've done it every year, and I have a copy for you gentlemen to review. And then, Davis, could you make sure Jack can get a chance to sign it?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'll start with you, Bob. It's the same policy. There haven't been any changes or additions to it since, I think, 2022.
So we're not signing anything away when this.
You are not signing. It really is just an acknowledgement that you support the Joint Loss Committee in its present form and using its present policies and procedures.
And also Steve has power of attorney over you guys now too.
Yes, but only if there's a disaster, of course.
Do you need this by a certain
No
time?
disasters
Could be
are
next
on the
week.
roster.
Next week's great. Yeah, anytime's great. Perfect. So basically, in summary of what's going on in the safety world, I did a quick summary of all of our incidents, and so far countywide, we've had 61 reported injury incidents. That's everything ranging from a paper cut to something more serious like a back injury. Of those 61, we've had 13 that have been workers' compensation claims. By claim, I mean it's either resulted in medical attention or it's resulted in lost time. So we're tracking it almost identical to last year at this time. So we're in decent shape in that regard.
Are we supposed to report paper cuts?
I was just gonna ask,
well-
people actually do that?
Because I guess I need to report a couple more.
They actually report things that are very minor sometimes. So,
I've seen reports for people that had a staple poke in their
Yeah.
finger.
and so, I would rather people over-report rather than under-report and find out 3 weeks later they had a cut that got infected and so I would much rather they do it that way. And I checked with Primex and they said, just report everything and we'll just do a first notice and call it good. So that's kind of the way we're going. In general, here at Maplewood, the biggest injuries are usually involving resident movement, some kind of form of resident movement, whether it's a transfer or something of that nature. And overwhelmingly, it's strains and sprains that happen. The other, the second most popular place is the DOC, and they have strains and sprains usually associated with training accidents. So, and again, it's tracking about similar to where it was last year for them as well. So we're stable. When we did the Primex report, one of the things that when I talked to our risk person, Bob Stafford, he kind of clarified with me that we should look at our biggest categories and kind of have an action plan. And oddly enough, our biggest category last year was lacerations. And so I worked with the staff here at Maplewood, and Heather put together this great in-service for their staff to talk about knife handling and cleaning. And so actually those lacerations have gone down quite a bit since they did that. So it's nice to see. Also here at Maplewood, we've completed our first of 2 required disaster drills. On May 24th, we simulated a cyber attack and went through the process of what would we do as an institution here at Maplewood to compensate for loss of internet access for a period up to 2 weeks. And, we had Westmoreland Select Board members were here. Primex actually sent 2 representatives to watch as well. And we also had Emergency Management and Westmoreland Fire Department were here. And they attended and they thought it was pretty fruitful. We then did that drill, a similar drill last week, and I'm glad Doug's here. We did it with the DOC. We kind of went through the same process. What would you do if you didn't have internet access for an amount of time? And I was really pleased with the DOC, the way they're ready to go. They have paper copies of anything they would need to do. We talked about, well, how would you order food? How would you compensate for booking and, transfer of inmates? And they had answers to everything and they did a really great job. So,
Did everybody consider payroll in this?
I'm glad you brought that up. When I started these drills here at Maplewood and at DOC, I specifically said, if it's a countywide disaster, a countywide attack, we're gonna have to think about it differently. And payroll came up and I said, we're not gonna talk about finance right now. We're just gonna talk about, I know, I'm sorry. We're just gonna talk about daily operations within the institution.
But just so you're aware,
Yeah.
that the internet is how
Right.
both of these sites communicate their pay to employees.
Absolutely.
So regardless of us being up, if they're down.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
just.
Yep.
Yeah.
And my hope is that sometime before the end of 2024, we'll be able to do a drill with finance and do a county-wide department head drill where
Do you have a protocol for
we
that?
look at that.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I mean, if we're up and they're down, but we would, that we'd have them come to our location.
Yeah.
But, as far as being completely down, for 2 weeks, I guess we would have to go to paper. I mean, I don't know if that would impact, I don't know if it would impact the, the time clocks, because the internet is not what is not the,
Right.
what
Right.
captures, but right now, our system runs off of a host that Rob Hummel has control over. When we transition to this new system, it's not hosted on site, so we would be, I mean, I would imagine we would just have to go off site. We'd have to go off site to find a way to access the internet.
And that's kind of what Corey Casey talked about from Primex. He said in a lot of cases in a cyber attack, what you would do is you would move critical systems like finance, you'd move them to a neutral site with brand new computers that had never been hooked up to the network before. I think you were in that session with me when they talked about it. So we'd actually, kind of set up a command post someplace else that doesn't have any of our network access.
Yeah, that's.
So,
Yeah, well, that brought up in my memory a situation where, the company had to, what they did is an average pay. And they just cut checks and they sorted it out later. In other words, there were 100 people and, everybody would get $500.
You have actually, that is, and I'm sorry to hijack
That's
your
okay.
conversation, but, I don't know, about a year or two ago, Kronos actually did have a major, hack that impacted their clients that were on the cloud. We were not. We were obviously controlled by our own network server that, I mean, that Rob Hummel can like resurrect within a split second. But there were a lot of companies that they did not have payroll records to be able to pay their employees. So I have talked about that internally in our department, and that would be basically what we would need to do is we'd have to go back and either, look at a prior payroll, but we would get people paid and then go back and have to reconcile it afterwards. Yeah. Yeah. So,
Isn't that why we keep the typewriter?
yeah.
the old
Yeah.
Selectrix, right.
Yeah.
So, so that drill, at Maplewood and DOC went well. Our next drill, from Maplewood is going to be, later in the summer, maybe early fall. And, we're gonna actually do a live drill of a tornado simulation. How would we react? What would we do to the residents? If there was a tornado, watch and then tornado warning, kind of to play out what we would do and how we'd keep residents safe. So, more to follow on that, and that gets along. In terms of life safety, we are in our survey window right now at Maplewood. And so right now, Catherine, Aaron Newcomb and I are going out weekly and checking a section of the building for life safety. We're doing a floor at a time and just waiting for a survey to come here and check us out. Finally, in life safety, we're doing our annual fire extinguisher training at Maplewood. We're getting that ready for October. And we'll be having the staff, we bring in Tim Reed. He used to work at a local fire department. He comes in and sets up a controlled fire in the backyard and in a big pan of water, and staff get to come out and actually practice extinguishing a fire.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's a good time. I'm gonna bring music this time to go along with it. It's fun. We do it early in the morning and late in the afternoon.
S'mores.
We could do some more, right?
It tastes like propane.
Yeah.
Just a little.
We're continuing to do mask fittings at Maplewood, for N95 masks, and we have done the annual gas mask fittings for the sheriffs, so they've all been fitted with their gas mask, and we've kind of tested that. And then in terms of building audits, Maplewood, through the safety committee, does an ongoing building audit. We do a section at a time every few weeks. I did take a walkthrough of EMS a couple of months ago and made sure they're okay and they're in good shape. And I'm working with Les at DOC and Rob at Keene to set up a time to go in and audit those buildings. And Chris, there will be a fire drill coming up soon in Keene.
Just make sure you keep your record going and pick a rainy day.
Yep, absolutely. Well,
because everybody loves you when you do that.
Exactly.
So I should bring my raincoat to work every day.
Every
until
day.
this happens.
And sensible shoes. And then the last,
Sensible.
and then the last thing is, one of the things that's in the budget this year is removing chemicals from the basement in Keene. And that process is still going on. The company that we're using, BioServe, the person that came out here and audited our chemicals and got us our EPA permit, has left the company. So BioServe is trying to figure out where all his stuff is so they can come finish that process. But I'm hoping that gets done soon. That's it. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
What's the status, or what are the protocols for AED monitoring and management and training?
Yep. So here at Maplewood, Amanda Sharkey, we have one AED at Maplewood. Amanda Sharkey is in charge of that one. There are one in every police cruiser, and Don Melvin oversees those. But I keep a master list of all of the AEDs, where they're located.
How many do you have in the county?
I want to say, with the ones in the cars, I'm going to say 22 or 23.
Only one here.
Only one here,
We have an emergency card.
but we have the crash card as well. Yeah. And so what happened?
Kept on the crash card?
Yep, it's right on top of the crash cart, and the crash cart's always unlocked. And so the door is always unlocked to get to the crash cart.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Where's the crash card located?
It's right down the hallway, right next to the main elevator bank on the first floor.
Okay.
Yeah. All of the other ones.
After the meeting?
Sure. Yep. All of the other AEDs, I keep track of when the pads go and when the batteries go. And we order them and replace them as we need to. So, yeah. So that's kept up to date.
How often are they used, or have they been used?
Since I've been here at Maplewood, we have used that one once. And then elsewhere in the county, I don't
recall.
I don't think it's-
Since I've been here, I don't know
Yeah.
that we've ever used one elsewhere in the county.
Knock on wood, we don't have to.
Right. I was talking to is it Nick at the Women's Crisis Center?
Yes.
He has asked that we put an AED down there. And so I'm gonna find an AED and get him one down there mounted, because he doesn't have one. So. Okay.
There's some over in the courthouse, right?
Yeah, there's two. We have two in the courthouse. One with the sheriff's office and one upstairs, right?
Oh, not our building, the courthouse next door.
Yeah.
Oh, courthouse next to, yeah.
Yeah, they have one on the state has one on every floor. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and what about 33 West Street?
They have one on the second floor.
That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're
And
covered.
then, yeah, and then Connected Families, they have one both in Keene and in Claremont.
Okay, good.
So. Okay.
Okay,
All right. Thank you.
thank you. My report, let's see. First and foremost, Davis, if you could just give a quick update on the refugee meeting that's coming up. As you remember, we're looking into if it's something that we should be exploring in reference to getting workers into not into just the county's operations, but also the county as a whole. And so we've been exploring that, and we have a meeting coming up. Davis?
Yeah, so we have this meeting coming up on Thursday, August 8th at 2:30 p.m. On Zoom and in person, as we have some people coming from different parts of the state, including Rick Menard, who you've all met over Zoom a couple months ago. So he'll be coming from Manchester, most likely. This will include I think we're up to about 5 separate groups now that will be joining us. So we'll be able to really move forward with this and see how we can best support the program. So if you two would like to join, we'd love to have you, of course.
So it's Zoom or in person at the.
Yep, outside of Chris's office. So totally up to you. I can send you both an invite so you have it.
Okay,
Be interested.
will you send it, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. Terry, is there any update on Cheshire County Power?
Yes, we're in the process of notifying the ratepayers in Troy and Hinsdale, because they're going to be launching on October 1st. We're having public information sessions in each one of the towns on the week of August 22nd. We're launching our new rates tomorrow, August 1st. We will be going at 8.9 cents, which will include that 1/3 of a cent adder for our fund and the other towns as well. Beyond that, that's it. I haven't seen any publicity in the media about that. They did have an editorial talking about Eversource's impending rate increases, but
There was one article talking about the new rates a couple weeks ago.
was it?
I believe so. Let me check.
Well, that's good. I just didn't see it. Other than that, that's everything is going as planned, and everybody's happy that I know of.
Great. Thank you very much. I'm going to keep on going. We'll be meeting with the YMCA, Dan Smith, and others from the YMCA. Then when I say we, Suzanne Banza and I, we're looking at a collaboration around Juneteenth celebrations. As you know, this year was very Keene-centric, and we've found some grants that may allow us to do it countywide. And so we thought we would meet with them. It's something that I wanted to do. I talked to Dan about a while ago, and so it looks like it's coming to fruition. We don't know what it means yet, but we'll keep you informed as we move forward. It's like a $20,000 grant, and it would allow us to get speakers in other regions and in the county. Executive committee meeting, just a reminder, is on the 12th of August at 10 a.m. and the delegation meeting is on the 19th at 7 p.m. Just want to make sure you guys are aware that the quote for the county office, as you remember, we have to add 2 offices up in the county attorney's office. And so really we have to add 1, but if you're going to do it where you're doing, it makes sense for us to do 2 offices right there. Because it just, yeah, well, if you saw it, you'd understand. And so the quote came back a little under the 40,000, but we're going to keep the 40,000 that we've set aside for the project. Just because there may be the numbers that may go up as we get into this, but right now it's at 37.5 and we had projected 40,000.
Are they gonna split an office into 2?
No, we're adding they have a major big conference room, and at the end of the conference room, we're adding 2 office spaces, and it will free up, it will allow them to get rid of one of their cubicles and put one of those people in there, but also we're adding a witness. If you remember, we added in the budget a victim witness court person, and that person will be going into that office.
What are the dates and times of the executive and the delegation meetings again? I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Executive committee on the August 12th at 10 a.m.
Mhm.
and the delegation meeting at 7 p.m. on the 19th of August.
19th at 7 p.m. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Just make you aware we have 2 projects going on right now for a handyman. One is in Keene on Diane Drive, and the other one is in Richmond, both to do with ramps. And it's really got us back on track, allowing us to vet other construction companies, make sure they have the same qualifications as the Southwest Community Services weatherization team does, and then once that's all completed, that crew can get in there and do the work. So we're ramping back up for the handyman, which is a good thing. Had an opportunity to be on a Zoom this week with Margaret Burns of New Hampshire Municipal Association, and with Kate in reference to the conversation we had down in Tampa pertaining to first and foremost the concern over that there's really no funding mechanism for upgrading infrastructure for fire mutual aid services throughout the state, especially fire mutual aid infrastructure in the field, of the towers that have the radio wave equipment on there, so individuals can talk amongst themselves out in the middle of nowhere in Richmond or in Fitzwilliam or wherever it may be. And so and that we think that it should be something that should be brought on to the National Association of Counties, so they can work in Washington and start working with both sides of the aisle to see if there can be a mechanism for us to find funding for this, so it doesn't go back to the taxpayer. And when we were talking about it, I thought, why didn't we reach out to Margaret Burns, because she heads up New Hampshire Municipal Association. All the towns in the city of Keene, whoever does dispatching is in the same boat as us. At some point, they're going to have to upgrade, and there's really not a mechanism, and it goes back to the taxpayers. And if we could find some other funding streams, that would be great. So it was a good conversation. The other thing we talked about is if we could work, if they could be in support of us working on the national level, bumping up what we receive for Medicare services. I know that was my dog that just hit the computer. So that we could bump up on the national level Medicare what we're receiving for EMS services, because if we can do that on a national level, first and foremost, that's good for everybody. That helps the city of Keene's budget. It helps all the privates that are out there struggling to maintain. But a lot also, then we can argue that Medicaid should come up to the level that Medicare is at, and that's a double bump for us in revenues for Medicare and Medicaid. She loved the idea, both the ideas. She's going to do whatever. She's going to pull some people, some towns together too, so that we can start, building a little bit of a wave here of support in the state, and then we're going to work on the national level with NACO to continue to fight for that. We have a meeting coming up with Southwest Regional Planning Commission pertaining to transit and if there's a role for the county to take a look at transit in our community. As you know, there's a lot of isolation in our towns because we don't have a transit system, and if they don't have a mechanism for whatever the reason may be, whether they don't have a car or they just can't drive, then they're alone out there. And we've seen that, especially hearing that from the community kitchen, and in that their mobile pantries are really a hit, because those people that can't get into the city of Keene to get the food pantries, and the food pantries, the smaller food pantries just don't have the personnel to be able to do something. So the pop-up community kitchen things in towns has really been a success. So that's what they're looking at. So we're looking at transit, and I don't know what it means yet, but I'll get back to you once I do. Don Bliss has started a strategic plan with Cheshire County EMS, so that we have a 1 year from now, a 3 year from now, and a 5 year from now plan going forward of where we need to be operationally with Cheshire EMS, and also we'll bring financial into that too. And then last but not least, ASME, which is the union up at the nursing home, has sent a letter indicating negotiations. And so we'll start our negotiations soon with them once we start finding dates. That's what I have.
Can I ask a question in
No.
regards to the pro share? So I'm looking at last week's minutes, and I can see that, let me go back to them, because now I'm not in them anymore.
Oh, do you want them actually?
Yeah, that would be.
Somewhere, promise.
Okay, so I see last week's minutes, identify that you addressed pro share funding and asked the commissioners to vote on the allocation of the following funds.
Mhm.
It indicates the Monadnock Collaborative, which obviously we know that's, and I don't know necessarily if we need to put the dollar amounts in here too, but the repair of the windows, television for County Hall,
Yeah.
lifeguards and radically rural.
Yeah.
But I have a longer list than that.
You do?
And,
What did I miss?
I've got,
And I could have missed
Center
this too.
Street parking lot. I've got Jaffrey and Ringe Chamber of Commerce. I've got the county attorney's windows, which I thought came up at the meeting that I wasn't, because I wasn't at this meeting.
It's not the county attorney windows?
I don't remember that.
I have the list that you emailed me, Chris, of
Yeah.
pro share included $12,650 for Center Street parking lot sidewalks,
Yes.
$5,000 for Jaffrey Chamber of Commerce.
Correct. Those should
$5,000.
be in this. I brought that up last week.
Okay, I'll have to go.
And then,
Watch the minutes, because I must have missed them.
Yeah.
and then was it last week that the $40,000 for the county attorney's construction came up too?
Yeah.
Okay, so those are, maybe it's just a matter of just getting them in, and should we put the dollar amounts? And then the balance would be recommended to, set aside in fund balance for future year reduction of taxes?
Yes.
And then, did we need
And the
them?
windows in the county attorney is actually the windows downstairs that lead up to the county attorney's office
Yeah, in the foyer.
in the foyer.
And then, and this may have been in a previous minutes about all the opioid money that the budget, and I didn't know, I haven't found that yet to see.
I can grab them for you. I
If,
have the list.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I do have them. I just,
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't sure if they were listed as a vote from the commissioners too.
They voted on it last week too.
So I see. Coach said the county received a round of opiate abatement fund last month. He said that the New Hampshire Care Collaborative. Yep.
And I believe we
New
talked about
Hampshire
it
Care
the
Collaborative,
week before.
Kids
That's when the
Collaborative,
vote was.
could use support and send children who have parents affected by opiate.
We voted on that?
Yeah, you did.
But specifically, I believe it was July.
July,
10.
okay, let me look back to the July. It's
Oh,
at-
yeah.
Okay, here are we. I just want to make sure they are in, because I wasn't at any of these meetings for whatever reason. I know I was
You
on
were away, yeah.
vacation.
Yeah, and I'll check them out. We have recordings, so I can make sure I have everything down.
Why can I not get back to the? Okay, here we go. So July 10. Actually, so I have a June 5th. And then I go straight to June 12th canceled. And then June 26th. Oh, I gotta go up this. I don't have anything for July 10th. Okay. I'm looking at
Well,
the,
Cheryl, on Monday we can work that all out too.
okay, I just want to
Okay.
make sure that it's in the minutes.
Yeah, I'll go
Yeah.
over it and I'll check July 10th.
Okay,
When I'm,
But anything I sent to you is that I brought to the commissioners. Because I used the same email as a reference point. So I was
Yeah.
getting right.
okay,
All right.
thank you.
All right. That's what I have. Let's see. I gotta go back here for a second. Any old business? Any new business?
Just a question which I raised yesterday about the awards ceremonies for the November NHAC event.
Davis, yeah, Davis and I will talk today about starting to get hotel rooms and figuring out who already has hotel rooms. I'll talk to Suzanne on Monday and we'll go from there.
Good, thank you.
Alrighty. And we'll go through all the department heads to ensure that they all have their people made aware and that they're paid for them to go up and all that jazz. Okay?
Good.
All right, consent agenda, vote to accept the weekly manifest and minutes of July 17th, 2024.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any questions, Commissioner England,
Aye.
Commissioner Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Okay, calendar, any changes?
Nope.
No.
Okay, general
Just-
discussion,
just
no,
the
no,
see,
no,
Yeah,
no
yeah.
non-public session. So vote to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Commissioner England
Aye.
and Commissioner Clark,
Yes.
we are adjourned.
Just another thing.